Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays. That's when they saw each other. Third carriage in, non-smoking compartment, midway down. It had become a ritual, an unspoken pact between them almost, that he would get on at Reading around 8 o'clock, and that moment he would take that seat facing hers, and they'd share the 28-minute journey together, she with her nose in a book, he tapping his foot to the music on his Walkman, or appearing lost in thought at the passing countryside. She spotted him first in mid-December. He was not one of the weekday regulars, the Thatcherite city boys who were so familiar to her they had become featureless. There was something about him. Hair a touch too long for a man in his 30s, and dark eyes that put to mind Judd Nelson in Breakfast Club. And always the same long black overcoat. Though it must be getting a bit warm to wear now that it was June. She would spend most of her journey musing about his background, why he made that twice-weekly trip. A poet, a musician, a part-time tutor at one of the colleges. Single, she hoped. Separated or divorced, definitely not happily married. Maybe widowed with children. Make it just 2, she thought. I'm not sure how he'd cope with any more. Above all, it was the air of gentle sadness that appealed to her, that made her want to reach out. She would gladly help take on his burdens, whatever they were. If she knew when he made the return journey, she could see him more. Not that it was likely she could catch the same train, not with the irregular hours that she worked. She looked up from her book to sneak a glimpse, catching his eye. She flushed. Of course, he'd noticed her staring. It had annoyed him at first, but now he deliberately sat opposite, or nearby if the seat was taken, just to taunt her. It was a bit of a shitty thing to do, but it passed the time. Plus, it was fun to catch her out, like just a moment ago, again with the eyes though. Silly cow. He pretended to look at a passenger who got up further down the carriage. Then he glanced back at her, before turning his head to the window. In the reflection, he could see her lift her eyes at him again. Who reads Shakespearean love sonnets in this day and age, he wondered. Frizzy perm, Laura Ashley dress. Not how he liked his woman to look. The legs are okay, he conceded, but she would have to lose those sensible shoes. Probably she has to stand all day. Maybe she's a librarian or a charity shop worker. A dried-up spinster, no doubt. Probably never had a man. Just like old Liz. As Phil Collins crooned a groovy kind of love in his ear over the rhythmic lurch of the train, his mind turned, as it often did, to the person, the reason he made this journey. Following the call from the nursing home to inform him Aunt Liz was poorly and unlikely to last much longer, he had made it his mission to become her favorite nephew. He, his sister Sally, and a distant cousin were Liz's only relatives and would most likely inherit. But he wanted the bulk of what he'd been surprised to learn was a fair sum. Sally, who lived in Edinburgh, had only made one trip so far. The cousin, none, whereas he saw Liz twice weekly. He spent an hour and a half with her before returning home each time for his afternoon shift, and he felt certain that the time invested in her would surely be well spent. But as winter became spring and then early summer, he was losing hope. How much longer would he have to make this tedious journey? Sit at the old biddy's bedside, hold her skeletal hand as she prattled on, and with that expensive nursing home, Liz's savings were dwindling down with each passing week. Despite diminishing returns, however, he couldn't abort his mission now. Liz made it clear how much she looked forward to his visits and had occasionally hinted that perhaps she would change her will to leave her money to charity. The thought occurred to him that he was trapped. For months, I've been visiting you in that old codger's home, wasting precious money on the train, and each time you look healthier than the last. You better remember me in your will, or I swear one of these days I'll grab a pillow and... The voice of the train driver announced their arrival at Oxford. She was much too timid to make that first move, but she gathered her face together in readiness of a smile in case he nodded goodbye. But no, he clicked off his Walkman, got up and quickly turned down the aisle. She picked up her belongings with a sigh. It was a 10-minute walk to the flat above the bookshop, where her first client would soon arrive. A rather decrepit professor of modern languages, who liked her in basque and fishnets, and called her sweet angel. Getting off the train, she looked for him along the platform. In the distance, she saw the back of his figure, darting through the crowd. It doesn't matter, she consoled herself. You'll see him again, on Thursday, on Mondays and Thursdays.